Hello, everybody,
Hey everyone.
and welcome back to our YouTube channel, Sisterly Conversation. We will be picking the topic at this time.
We are currently okay, and the topic says, what is the driver's license process in Canada?
I think we should specify and say Ontario
In
because
Ontario, yes.
different provinces have different laws and stuff. So
Even in different areas of Ontario, actually I would say Toronto because that's where we are.
right.
And even in Ontario, like certain things might be different too because Ontario is a very huge place. So yeah, I'll just say Toronto for now.
Okay, so about the driver's license, we're gonna talk about having driver's license back in the home country versus coming out here the first time to do your driver's license. So for me, I had license from back home, so I came up with my Barbados license. Now, the Barbados license is not transferable here. However, there are other countries I don't really know a lot of them. I know for sure England is one of them, and Australia, who can transfer their driver's license to the one over here. But for us in Barbados and I guess around the Caribbean, um, we are able to just drive with our license and the G1 license. So let's talk about the G1 license. So the G1 license is like the written test that you have to do, and it is actually two separate tests. There's one for road signs, and then what's the other one again?
I don't remember.
Um,
But it's just written
it's a
test,
written
basically.
test. It's 20 questions for the signs, and then 20 questions for like the road rules. There we go. It's the rules. So there's a book, or you can do practice questions online. That's what I did, and then you go to a testing center, and it is at Service Ontario. But you have to make sure you know off which Service Ontario offers the test, because not every Service Ontario does. So you just write the exam, and once you pass it, you will have your G1 license. So in order now to drive with your Barbados license, you have to go to the consulate, the Barbados consulate, or the for all people who are not Barbadians. You go to your consulates, and they will just write a letter for you stating that you have license back home for X amount of years. So then, once you have that letter and you show it to Service Ontario, then you're eligible to drive without somebody. And let me just add that when you have G1, when you go for the G1, I guess my sister will further explain for it to you. When you have G1, you're supposed to drive with someone. But in my case, because I have my Barbados license and the G1, now I'm eligible to drive on the road by myself. Now, another good thing about having license from back home is that since you have your G1 and your license, you are now eligible to just drive and do the G. The G is the highway license. So once you have that and you pass it, you're clear. You have your Canadian license. So that's basically the process for me. I don't have my G yet, but I still drive on my own, having my Barbados license and my Canadian G1 license. So over now to my sister, who will talk more about the process for not having license from back home.
Okay, so first off, I would also add that when you're visiting Canada, as I assume is with a lot of other countries as well, you as like a foreign person, you can also drive in the country for a limited time period. I'm not quite
It's
sure
three
if
months.
it's 3 months.
3 months.
Okay, yeah. So
Hmm.
you can drive in Canada when you're visiting for 3 months as well. So Tony talks about having license from another country and then coming to Canada with that. For me, I never had my license back home. So I had to start from scratch. And what I would say is that, as Tony mentioned about the G1 written test, is that well, in order to get your G1, you have to do the written test. So as she mentioned, I don't really want to go over what she said because she basically said it. You study for the test, and then you go into any drive test center. She said that I think she said some does not offer.
Service Ontario, because Service Ontario is where you do the driver's test, but not everywhere offers it.
Oh, she's talking about Service Ontario, but you can go into any drive test center and do your written test. There are drive test centers all over the place in Ontario and in Toronto, the Toronto area where we have Etobicoke, we have North York, we have York, we have downtown, we have all over the place, right? Mississauga, whatever. These are there drive test centers all over. So you go in, you do the test, and you get your G1 test. You get your G1 card, and it's actually a card with your picture and your information. And just another little nugget of information is that this is an ID card, and in Canada, well, Ontario, you can just to pick up mail, to do any important stuff, and they ask you for ID. You can present your driver's license because that's the form of ID that they take. Just the other day, I went to vote, and they also asked me for my driver's license as a form of ID, along with the fact, obviously, of my voter's card and stuff like that. So just show you that that's a form of ID that you can do whatever with. Okay, now back to the topic at hand. So after you finish your G1, now is the time to start practicing. So you can book a drive test instructor to teach you how to drive, or if you have a family member or a friend, anybody with a G license can teach you how to drive. I know in Barbados they used to have like the L's, sorry. Anywho, they used to have L's on the car to show that you're learning. Here they don't really do that. You just have the person and they're teaching you in a regular car. When you have a drive instructor, they have a special card that actually has the word instructor on the card so that people know that you're actually learning. There are actually some stickers too you could buy online on Amazon or something like that if you're learning with a family member or a friend, that you can stick at the back of the car stating that I'm learning to drive or whatever, just to give people the heads up that you are learning. Then it comes to, so the time period to learn how to drive is for G1 to get your G2 is about, I think, a year or so. Yeah, I think it's a year or two or something like that. I'm not quite sure the time period, but you get an extended time period where you can butt your G2 license. But to be honest, you could take as long as you like, because nobody can tell you when to butt your test, right? You can, if you feel more comfortable taking a lengthy period of time because you are they're different type of learners. Some people learn fast, some people take some time to learn. Just butt the test when you're actually ready to buck it. Then when it comes to the time to book a test, you have three options. So you can book it via the phone, online, or in person at any drive test center. For me personally, I book it online because then they send you an email and then you have all the information there. You see when your driving test is. You see the location. Like when I say is, I mean like the date of your driving test, the time of your driving test. You see the location. And if you want and you have to reschedule or cancel it, you can also do that online as well. It's very simple. It's a simple process. When you're done that and it comes to the date of your drive test, they always tell you bring your glasses. If you have glasses, bring any important thing you may need. And then also remember to bring your G1 card. Make sure you have a card that is fully workable, but in working condition, because they check your brakes, your headlights, they check your indicators, they check your horn. Another thing is we don't do hand signals, so that is very important. I think in Barbados they still do hand signals. In Canada they don't. So yeah, you don't have to really worry about hand signals. Then um, when you're during the G2 test now, this is the G2 test now where you can actually drive everywhere except for the highway.
Right.
So while doing this test, they test you on. You could jump in here if you want. They test you on.
I never did it, so I won't.
Oh, shame.
Did you want?
Okay, so they test you on uphill. They can test you on uphill, downhill parking. They test you on 3-point turns. They'll test you for sure on parallel parking. They'll test you on parking. So you have to really like make sure you know these things, and then they're gonna test you on stopping. What do you do when you see a stop sign? When you see the regular street lights, whatever, they're gonna test you on merging as well. Merging is basically like going into the other lane to make sure you're merging correctly. I'm not a drive test center, so I'm not our instructor, so I'm not gonna go through every single thing they test you on, but you just make sure that you know what you're doing. When you're with an instructor, they teach you these things, and if you're not with an instructor, you can learn online because there are a lot of YouTube videos where people actually teach you about the G2 test. If you pass your G2 test, hooray. If you pass your G2 test, I believe you get about 3 to 5 years. I can't remember the length of time, but you get a long time to practice for your G test. And the thing about it for me, I feel like when you're driving with your G2, now you can drive by yourself. You get to feel comfortable on the road. You get to practice all these different things, you know. But when you're driving on the highway, you have to drive with another person because you don't have your G. So you always drive with another person, and this is the specific time to practice driving on the highway, because the next test that will be up will be the highway test, which is the G test, which is the final test for regular vehicles, I guess, like that you drive every day, right? So basically you test merging on the highway, entering and exiting the highway, all these different little things. After the pandemic, before the pandemic, they used to make you do the parallel parking and the 3-point turn and all that other great stuff. Not. They made you do that for the G test, but after the pandemic, they didn't really do that anymore because there was such an overload of driving tests. So they just wanted to get all this stuff off. So then they just kind of focused the G test mostly on going directly onto the highway, driving on the highway, and merging, entering, coming back off, and stuff like that. So I don't know when they're going to, or if they will, start back doing all the other little things that they do in the G2 into the G again. But for now, anybody that's looking to do their license at not like at this point, or maybe in the not too distant future, I know for a fact that they're not questioning you on doing all those extra stuff, so you can breathe a little bit. Where that is
because I haven't done my G yet, so
right. So you don't have to worry about. I mean, it's still good to know what to do just in case you come across an instructor that's gonna try to be like a little extra, but you know, more than likely they're not, because they're still trying to, you know, people buck a license test every day. They're bucked up, you know. So then they just kind of want all this stuff to. And again, when you're bucking your G, you go through. You can do it online, by phone, or via the test center. And then, yeah, you get your G.
Like Shanita.
Make sure you watch some videos as well. I find the videos are super helpful. Very, very helpful. And yep, that's what you do.
Yeah, I remember when Shanita went for her G license. She had an instructor because, to be honest with you, sometimes you need that professional person to tell you the right things, because as you start to drive even the G2, you're going to pick up bad habits. So the best thing is to make sure you have like an instructor. I would encourage anybody, go with an instructor or go with somebody who really knows about driving on the highway, so that because when you're merging back home, when we merge, you just look through mirror and go across. Here, because it's like 100 lanes on one side going the same way, you gotta look back because that's called the blind spot. So you gotta look back on both. If you wanna merge to the left, you gotta look back, merge to the left, and same thing for the right. So I feel like it would be better even if you do 2 3 sessions. You don't gotta do 20 sessions, because then you could you could constantly practice them with somebody in the car. But when you initially know starting out going on the highway, go with an instructor. I would advise that.
Yeah, because they'll teach you the proper way. Because even when you go with a family member,
Right.
they might not teach you like exact, but the instructor will definitely teach you the proper way. For me personally, getting my G2, I would have to say though, because sometimes the instructors aren't all of that either at times. Because I remember for me when I first went for my G2, I failed it and I went with an instructor. I actually had a testing. I went to a class. It was actually like a class, and I went with these people. My instructor was like, in my opinion, a negative, because I was driving and she was on the phone, and I don't know how she was really paying attention to what I was doing or whatever, and it just didn't go about. And then coming out towards the time when it was near my test, her husband took over the last 3 lessons. So it's that you're transitioning from one person to another person. Everybody has their own teaching styles, and I don't think that worked for me at all. So I failed that test, and then the second time I did the G2 test, I actually went with my ex-husband, and he taught me pretty much everything I knew on the road, and basically I passed it with him. And then for the G test now, I also failed the G test the first time as well. And the second time I passed the G test. So that's just a thing to say as well. If you feel it, don't feel so bad.
Don't give up.
Because the driver's license is something you could keep going for. If you feel it 5 times, 6 times, hopefully you don't feel it that much. You know what I mean? But even if you feel it, it's not the end of the world. Because you could always work on certain things. They'll always tell you what you feel. Then you can work on it, and then you can get back out there and try it again or whatever. So yeah.
Alright guys, please like, share, and subscribe. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. And please have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.